Hello and welcome to 52 Cakes. I'm Alexi, and like a lot of people in the world right now, I'm trapped in a small flat with an even smaller kitchen. So I decided to record my attempts at baking while having very few resources actually available to me. So today I'm starting off with a Mocha Fudge cake. It's annoyingly complicated and requires a lot of faffing, to use a highly technical term. But yeah, let's get started. The first thing we want to do is add 150 millilitres or a quarter of a pint of boiling water to some instant coffee granules, and then make a double boiler by adding some of the water to a saucepan and covering with a heatproof bowl. Into the bowl we're adding 175 grams or 6 ounces of dark chocolate along with 50 grams or 2 ounces of butter. We stir that, let it melt, then we take it off the heat, add the coffee mixture in along with a teaspoon of vanilla and 300 grams or 10 ounces of icing sugar. We want to sift the icing sugar through, which takes an excessive amount of time, and then mix by hand until mostly combined, just to make sure there's no lumps, because we need this icing to be as smooth as possible. Once we've combined it, at least mostly, we want to then whisk it up using an electric whisk or a hand whisk if that's all you've got, to add air and to add lightness to the mixture. Once that's fully combined, I put it into a smaller bowl, just because I don't have any room in my fridge, but you don't need to do this. And then we need to chill for 4 hours, something like that. So while that's cooling, we want to heat 60 millilitres or 2 fluid ounces of water until boiling, and then add 4 tablespoons of instant coffee granules. And then once we've mixed those together, we add another 60 millilitres of milk, take it off the heat and put it to a side. We then need to make another double boiler. So that's just put water in a saucepan, put the heatproof bowl on again, make sure the water does not touch the base of the bowl. Once that's sorted, once the water's boiling, we need to melt another 85 grams or 3 ounces of dark chocolate. We then need to separate 3 eggs. So you want to put the egg whites in quite a large container and the yolks in a small one. Now, I'm not really good at this at all, as you can probably tell, but you just sort of have to keep going at it. It's a bit awkward, a bit tricky, but just make sure no eggshell gets in there. It doesn't matter, there's a bit of yolk in one and a bit of white in the other. It doesn't change anything much. Then we want to beat the yolks together with a teaspoon of vanilla. We then want to add 85 grams or 3 ounces of butter with 200 grams or 8 ounces of sugar. Now, this is a really inconvenient point, because this is the point at which my camera decides to fail. So luckily we don't miss much. I will get this fixed, but all you need to do is cream together the butter and sugar until fully combined. This takes 5 to 10 minutes. It's slow and painstaking, but with an electric whisk it should be okay. Just make sure you don't get a mess everywhere, which can happen with an electric whisk and non-melted butter. But yes, once it's fully combined, we want to bit by bit add the egg yolk mixture to the butter and sugar and just mix together. Then we want to mix in the melted chocolate from earlier. I'm moving it from in the small bowl to the large bowl simply because I don't like using metal bowls in double boilers. They conduct heat worse, well, better, but in a way that means I can't really hold it very easily. So we just want to mix that together by hand and by whisk, just to try and ensure it's all combined. Now, unfortunately, this is the other point where my camera dies. Don't worry, it's functional for the rest of the episode, but I'm going to get this fixed. I'm going to resolve the issue. I know what went wrong, it's just a, beginner's mistake. And unfortunately, we missed a lot there. It decided to die on one of the more complicated parts of the recipe. So what we want to do is we want to add the milk and coffee mixture we made earlier, along with 300 grams or 10 ounces of plain flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 125 millilitres or 4 fluid ounces of soured cream. And then you want to fold that together. Now this can take quite a long time because folding can be quite a painstaking process, but you just sort of have to keep at it. It can take 10, maybe even 15 minutes depending on the size of the spatula and how much experience you have with folding. But trust me, you don't want to whisk it. It'll go everywhere and it won't get the right consistency and it'll bake up funny. It'll end up all slightly inconsistent. Take this from someone that's wildly impatient and doesn't entirely like folding, but it is necessary when you want to mix stuff together sometimes, especially liquids like soured cream. Anyway, now once that's folded together, we want to whisk up the egg whites until stiff, which can take a little while, but with an electric whisk you just turn it up to max and just go a bit nuts. This is a situation where you can be horribly impatient because it doesn't matter that much. We then want to add 80 grams or 2 ounces of sugar, and we want to whisk until firm. Now by firm we mean solid, really. So as you'll see in a second, I just can turn the jug upside down to check. If you feel confident, you can turn the jug upside down. If nothing comes out, then it's firm. Don't do this if you aren't certain it's firm though, because you don't want it going everywhere. So then we want to add it to the rest of the mix, and then we want to gently fold together. Now fast forwarding means that you can't see me gently fold it together. It looks like I'm quite forcefully folding it together, but you do want to gently, slow, steady motion, because there's a lot of air in the eggs and you don't want to lose that. You want to give this a little bit of lightness because the cream has made the rest of the mixture quite dense. Now once this is fully mixed, which takes a while, you want to get a deep cake tin and line it. Now you can grease it with butter or flour and only line the base, but I prefer just to line the entire thing. It's easier, means you don't have to wash the cake tin every time. And so to do this, I just cut off a bit of greaseproof paper, and then I use butterfly clips to push the greaseproof paper all the way in to avoid any weird shapes with the cake, to try and ensure it's as consistent and as uniform all around the edge as possible. Now you want to just pour the mixture in, flatten the top slightly, and then remove the butterfly clips. You don't have to trim the baking sheet, I chose to. And then you just want to put it in an oven for 180 degrees or 350 Fahrenheit for 30 minutes until risen. Now you want to let the cake cool in the tin. Once it's cooled, you want to remove it from the tin, remove it from the paper, place it on a plate, and then cover with the icing that has now hopefully somewhat solidified in the fridge. Now you don't need to use as much as I use. 1/2 to 3/4 is fine, but just pour it all over, try and smooth it out slightly. And I kind of like the slightly messy look for a fudge cake. I think it looks a little more like chocolate or fudge, whereas a really smooth one looks a little natural in my book. But there you go, that is a Mocha Fudge cake. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications if you enjoyed the video. I want to do these weekly. I'm really hoping to do it for a year, but I'm just taking them as they go. And yeah, in these troubling times, please stay home, stay safe, and stay baking.